The Physics of God, proposing that the four greatest scientific phenomena provide evidence on the existence of a God. This is a technical analysis on how mainstream scientists dismiss the supernatural and replace it with the absurd. By Doug Thorpe and Dr. Andy Wyant, MD. Hosts of God-Talk.com, May 8, 2024.
Hello, I'm Allison Thorpe, and this is God Talk, recorded and produced in the bluegrass state of Kentucky, the home of horses, hills, hiking, hillbillies, big trucks, wildcat basketball, and Daniel Boone, the state where guns are honored and shoes are optional. This is the show where science, faith, and culture are discussed openly.
Welcome to God Talk, a show where a rocket scientist and a medical doctor, who is also my pastor, discuss science and religion. I'm your host, Doug Thorpe, and with me as always, my co-host, Dr. Andy Wyatt.
First, this is God Talk, a program where science, theology, and religion are mixed up, mingled, and dissected.
And this is God Talk, brain candy for the thinking Christian, a bad day for the atheist, and a provocative question for the seeker.
During this special episode of God Talk, we will provide and discuss the scientific circumstantial evidence that proves there is a God. And just like Timothy McVeigh was convicted of murder without anyone seeing him commit the crime, we will prove that there is a God by the accumulation of circumstantial evidence. We will discuss what is the scientific method and explain what scientists can't predict. Although not really miracles, we talked about a God showing off by the extreme happenstance in the properties of this universe. We then discussed the first miracle, which is the Big Bang, and how it was scientifically verified by the cosmic microwave background radiation. Then on to the second miracle, which is life. We will discuss if life can be created from non-life and the fallacy of the Urey-Miller experiment. We then discuss evolution, which is atheists' crutch. If they can't explain a miracle, they'll just claim it is just evolution. This leads to our third miracle, which is eukaryotic cells. And it's a miracle if you can pronounce it correctly. Basically, we are talking about the difference between bacteria and all other cells on Earth. And finally, the fourth miracle, which is consciousness. We discuss the purpose of the brain, terminal lucidity, visioning, near-death experiences, and ghosts. We finish the episode by talking about the greatest mathematician ever, Leonard Euler. Every STEM student, and every Masters in Divinity student must learn about this man of God's work. Based upon the evidence presented, we hope you are convicted in knowing that there is a God. The scientific method. We often hear scientists proclaim that they have a theory about something, when actually they mean they have a hypothesis, which is an untested and unproven explanation about a phenomena. Theories are tested and are used to make predictions. As more predictions agree with observations, the theory grows stronger. If observations are impossible, such as, is there a multiverse, then the proposed hypothesis is just an educated guess, at best, or an opinion, at worst. Scientist dilemma with miracles. Physical scientists can't predict what happened before the Big Bang, if there are other universes, how the universe will end. How was life created from non-life? How was the first eukaryotic cells created? What is consciousness? What happens after you die? Do you have a soul? Any concepts to the contrary are mere conjecture, if not outright lies. Since you can't conduct empirical observations, it certainly isn't science, it's called argument through ignorance. Gifts from God or just extreme happenstance. The sun is about 400 times farther away but just happens to be only 400 times larger in diameter than Earth's extremely large moon, which creates a fabulous solar eclipse. However, the moon is retreating from the Earth at a rate of about 1 foot per year, and there won't be any solar eclipses sometime in the distant future. We see beauty of the world because our ancestors evolved forward-facing eyes with trichromatic color vision, but trichromatic color vision was not necessary for our survival during evolution. Unlike most mammals, except bats, rabbits, and a few others, human females don't go into heat. As a result, we can have sex just for recreation. Yay! Our solar system evolved after several nearby stars went supernova billions of years ago, which provided us with elements heavier than iron, such as cobalt, copper, gold, silver, thorium, and uranium. The spark of life which can only be seen by scientists with special microscopes. There are no aggressive, intelligent aliens living within 100 light-years because they would have discovered and attacked us since receiving our first broadcasts made 100 years ago. The Carboniferous period gave us enormous amount of easy energy in coal and bound up tremendous CO2. and the multitude of other universe designed on a razor's edge phenomenon, such as the one provided next. The universe was apparently fine-tuned to a razor's edge. The fact that the universe is around today is extremely lucky. The density of the universe just 1 nanosecond after the Big Bang had to be 447 sextillion, 225 quintillion, 917 quadrillion, 218 trillion, 507 billion, 401 million, 284,000, and 16 plus or minus 0.2 grams per cubic centimeter. Basically, that is a billion times a half million plus or minus 0.2. However, if the universe was 0.2 grams per cc less dense, green line on chart, we wouldn't be able to see other galaxies. Or if the universe was 0.2 grams per cc more dense, red line on chart, it would have collapsed upon itself by now. This is just one of hundreds of physical properties of matter that shows the universe was designed on a razor's edge. To any rational person, this is the work of a universe creator, a deity, that is just showing off.
So our most accepted standard theory of the Big Bang goes something like this. About 13.8 billion years ago, the Big Bang happened. We don't know what caused it or what happened before this event, but about 10 to the negative 36 seconds later, cosmic inflation happened, causing the universe to expand exponentially. Then it ended. And then the universe continued to expand, but at a much slower pace. And these events largely explain what we observe in the universe today, 13.8 billion years later.
The Big Bang is circumstantial evidence. We can't directly see that the Big Bang happened. Big Bang concept developed in 1927 by Georges Lemaitre, a Belgian physicist and Roman Catholic priest. In the late 40s, several scientists hypothesized that leftover radiation from hot Big Bang could be detected today as cosmic microwave background (CMB) radiation. Due to the expansion of the universe, the temperature of this radiation has become lower and lower. They estimated at most 5 degrees above absolute zero, 5 Kelvin, which corresponds to microwave wavelengths. The CMB was emitted about 380,000 years after the Big Bang.
About 30 miles east of Princeton lays the town of Holmdel, New Jersey, home of Bell Laboratory, where Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson worked. They were using a radio telescope to try to get a precise measurement of a supernova remnant in the constellation Cassiopeia. To make sure their measurement had no unwanted signal, they pointed their telescope at empty space expecting to detect nothing, but they heard an unexpected hiss in their detector. After tons of debugging, cleaning pigeons out of their antenna, and checking everything they could think of, the hiss was still there. Furthermore, the hiss was the same no matter where they pointed their antenna. After a lot of consultation with their colleagues, including Robert Dick at Princeton, they realized that they had detected the microwave signal of the Big Bang. It's now called the Cosmic Microwave Background, or CMB. The CMB isn't just one wavelength, it's a spectrum of wavelengths, and the spectrum is exactly what would be emitted by an object with a temperature of 2.7 degrees Kelvin, or minus 450 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. Actually, the temperature is very precisely known. It is 2.72548 with an uncertainty of 0.00057 Kelvin. And it's the same everywhere in all directions. The Earth is embedded in the remnant fireball of the Big Bang, which is an awesome thing when you think about it. This observation is a huge validation of the theory of the Big Bang and netted Penzias and Wilson the 1978 Nobel Prize in Physics.
The Big Banger. Atheists have been fighting the notion of a Big Bang for nearly 100 years because it points to a supernatural event. Something can't appear from nothing. You can't have a Big Bang without a Big Banger. Any new theories created via the James Webb Telescope discoveries that dismisses the Big Bang, which we can't observe, must include the CMBR, which we can observe. The oldest written record of the Big Bang event was recorded many times over 3,000 years ago in the Holy Bible. One of many examples is provided in Zechariah 12 verse 1, the Lord, who stretches out the heavens, who lays the foundation of the earth, and who forms the human spirit within a person. Don't you find it extremely odd that all of the authors from 3,000 years ago said, stretch the heavens instead of paint the sky or something else? Also, the part of the verse that states, who forms the human spirit within a person, sounds a lot like the third and fourth miracles we will discuss later. Big Bang and time dilation. Scientists claim that there are 100 billion stars, like our Sun, in the Milky Way galaxy, and there are 100 billion galaxies in our universe. Scientists theorize that the entire universe, all 10 to the 24th stars, began from an infinitesimal speck that is unbelievably hot. Which means that speck is unbelievably dense, far greater than any black hole. Einstein's theory on special relativity provides gravitational time dilation, which states that time slows down as an object experiences greater gravity. The oldest written record of gravitational time dilation was written nearly 2,000 years ago in the Holy Bible, 2 Peter 3 verse 8, but do not forget this one thing, dear friends, with the Lord a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day. You can't get a better description of time dilation than that. Alternatives to Big Bang. Several scientists, mostly atheists who don't want there to be a universe created from nothing, have proposed alternatives to the Big Bang theory such as the Big Bounce. They say, there was no Big Bang. The universe just got so small that gravity becomes repulsive because of dark energy and bounce back to create a new universe. Our rebuttal other than the CMBR proves there was a Big Bang is that most scientists claim our current universe will expand forever. Did matter and spacetime bounce many times in the past just to expand forever the last time? If so, then the Big Bounce defies the laws of physics. Because if you drop a ball to the ground, doesn't it keep bouncing back less and less and not higher and higher? They say, our universe was created from a giant black hole in another universe. Our rebuttal, this is utter nonsense. That's not how black holes work. Stuff goes in, only Hawking radiation gets out. There is no scientific evidence of another universe. Center of black holes must spin, there is no spinning of our universe. Our early universe was much more dense than any black hole. Multiverse. Atheists like to say that there is nothing special about our universe, it is just one of many in the multiverse. Therefore, the multiverse eliminates a God. I say, the multiverse proves there is a God. It answers the question, what did God do before the Big Bang? The arrogance of scientists. Instead of saying, we don't know, scientists provide labels that make it look like they know. For example, dark energy, with dark meaning unknown. They say, dark energy is a negative suction force, their words, not mine, that inexplicably started about 5 billion years ago to accelerate the expansion of the universe. Think about what they're claiming. That 75% of the known universe just popped out of nothing 5 billion years ago. Scientists who confidently claim the universe will die in a whimper must assume that this dark energy won't disappear tomorrow. And if it does, and if you listen closely, you'll hear God laugh. You shouldn't be a bit surprised that someone doesn't propose dark time to mean the unknown events before the Big Bang. The Big Banger isn't a God of the gaps proposal, it's a bloody glove at OJ's trial with more evidence coming. Life, the second miracle. After our universe had existed for 9.3 billion years, our solar system was created 4.5 billion years ago. As a benefit of waiting billions of years, nearby stars had time to go supernova and produce the heavier elements starting with lead and going to uranium that make life pleasant on this planet. Only 100 million years after the Earth was created, the second miracle occurred, life was created on this planet. Life may exist on other distant planets and in other universes, but at each occurrence, this second miracle had to occur. What is life? Darwin postulates that life simply began in a warm pond soon after the creation of our planet. Atheists are quick to add, with no help from a God. In order to have sustainable life, life must have a nearby energy source it can reach. Life must convert that energy source into useful energy it can use. Life must reproduce without a host, excludes viruses, or if sterile, have been reproduced in likeness of parents, e.g., a mule. Life must be adaptable to its surrounding conditions. Life from non-life is also known as abiogenesis. A chicken egg and a human corpse possess everything they need to be alive, except the spark of life. 1.6 trillion chicken eggs, 82 metric tons, are laid every year, and not one of them became spontaneously alive. Almost every one of those eggs has the ability to become alive, but they need living DNA from a rooster early in the productive process, that will immediately start the mitosis process. Otherwise, an unfertilized egg is laid and it never evolves. If 100 tons of unfertilized eggs are laid in Darwin's warm little pond, why doesn't it spontaneously become alive? On the other end of life, a corpse was alive, but had recently ceased to be alive. Why is it impossible for Albert Einstein's brother, Frank, to reinvigorate a person from the body parts of several different people? Sorry for the joke. They say, what about the Miller-Urey experiment? Miller-Urey experiment was a simulation of conditions on the early Earth testing the idea that life, or more specifically organic molecules, could have formed by nothing more than simple chemical reactions. They say, Miller's success validated the theoretical ideas of operin and is considered to be the classic experiment investigating the concept of abiogenesis. Miller-Urey experiment, rebuttal. Miller-Urey experiment is a strawman argument. The conditions they tested did not represent early Earth. Early Earth was mostly CO2, like Venus and Mars, plus nitrogen. Nitrogen kills the MU experiment. Nitrogen would have been more prevalent in the atmosphere on early Earth, since nitrogen has been removed from the atmosphere to create Earth's abundant biota. If early Earth was mostly hydrogen and methane, where did all of that hydrogen originate and go? Earth doesn't have the mass/gravity to hold onto hydrogen. It would quickly float it away from our atmosphere and planet. From all of the fossil fuels and cubic miles of rock today composed of CO2 from life, e.g., chalk, limestone, marble, how did all of that free CO2 and extreme heat affect the MU experiment of early Earth? The same lightning that Miller-Urey used to create amino acids also has the potential to create nitrites which break apart amino acids. Making a few simple protein molecules is a far cry from DNA, RNA, complex proteins, etc., etc. Saying that the Miller-Urey experiment demonstrated abiogenesis is like extracting copper from chalcopyrite ore and saying it almost completes a working cell phone. If an unfertilized chicken egg can't create life, how will a few protein molecules create life? DNA and RNA is a 4-letter software program. You must have a programmer to write the program of life.
Using computer animation based on molecular research, we are now able to see how DNA is actually copied in living cells. You are looking at an assembly line of amazing miniature biochemical machines that are pulling apart the DNA double helix and cranking out a copy of each strand. The DNA to be copied enters the production line from bottom left. The whirling blue molecular machine is called helicase. It spins the DNA as fast as a jet engine as it unwinds the double helix into 2 strands. One strand is copied continuously and can be seen spooling off to the right. Things are not so simple for the other strand because it must be copied backwards. It is drawn out repeatedly in loops and copied one section at a time. The end result is 2 new DNA molecules.
What are the odds? If you believe in panspermia, that life arrive on Earth from another planet, not only do you must believe that a mind-boggling coincidence happened for all of the elements to come together to create life, but it had to happen billions of times per second for millions of years. Since God isn't writing the DNA or RNA, all life forms would be created. A monumental number of incorrect life forms must be created until the correct life form is created that could live in Darwin's warm little pond with no food other than hydrogen sulfide geysers. If you are an atheist and believe that life originated on another planet, you must believe that the conditions on that planet were the same as early Earth's, and the correct life form, not life forms that currently exist on Earth today, survived being blasted off that planet, and that life form could survive space travel for millions of years, and that life form could survive re-entry heat through early Earth's intense atmosphere, and that life form precisely landed on a spot on Earth that could sustain it or find a viable energy source before it died. By the way, objects see temperatures of 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit during re-entry, while thermophiles are only capable of withstanding 252 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, what are the odds? Who would believe such a fairy tale? Life requires a spark. The spark of life, also known as the zinc spark, was discovered to occur at the moment of conception. A video reveals what appears to be a fluorescent display of fireworks taking place at the moment of conception. The flash of light is created when zinc is released and binds to tiny molecules that emit a fluorescence, only viewable by certain microscopes. Think about this. Darwin said all you needed was a warm little pond and the right conditions. If life can be created from chemicals and lightning and whatever, then take an egg and inject it with dead sperm. You have all of the chemicals, from the egg and sperm, and all of the conditions, but nothing will happen. You must have a supernatural event every time life is created. Just because it is so easy for humans to spread life and create babies doesn't make it not a miracle. It amazes me that scientists will take a God-size event, e.g., the spark of life, and dismiss it as a natural event, i.e., the zinc spark. This is more just circumstantial evidence that there is a God. On to miracle number 3. Evolution. Evolution occurs when evolutionary processes such as natural selection and genetic drift act on genetic variation, resulting in certain characteristics becoming more or less common within a population over successive generations. Evolution can be a slow process, where it's easy to see that dolphins and porpoise had a recent ancestor. Evolution can also have small visible changes occur in one generation. Only requirement for evolution is intermediates must live long enough to have viable offspring and the offspring must resemble their parents. But massive changes during one generation are impossible. Fictitious example, let's suppose a group of buffaloes required wings to fly from a sinking island. Partial, unproductive, or undersized wings would do no good unless they could carry the buffalo the full distance to safety. As a result, either a miracle occurs and buffaloes start growing a full set of wings for no reason, or buffaloes don't grow any wings because it is not advantageous to them on that island. I presented that ridiculous example to reiterate that massive changes and mutations during one generation are impossible. Eukaryotic cells, the third miracle. Eukaryotic cells are found in all living things on Earth except prokaryotic organisms. Prokaryotes are single-celled microorganisms with no nuclei. Such bacteria and archaea. Eukarya includes us and all other animals, plants, fungi, and single-celled protists. All eukarya are organisms whose cells have nuclei to enclose their DNA apart from the rest of the cell. The fossil record indicates that the first living organisms were prokaryotes, and eukaryotes arose a billion years later. Eukaryotic cells are so vastly different than prokaryotic cells that there is no way eukaryotic cells could have evolved from prokaryotic. Evolution doesn't make massive changes that leaves no intermediates. Here is a common scientific explanation on how eukaryotic cells evolved from prokaryotic cells. Funny how the term miracle isn't in their vocabulary, but they can refer to eukaryotic cells evolving from prokaryotic cells as a sudden leap in evolution and a freak accident, with all sincerity. LOL.
And then something happened between two microscopic cells that, well, it changed everything. At least 1.7 billion years ago, one cell just gulped up another one. The swallowed cell started living inside the other one. It evolved into what we call the mitochondrion.
The powerhouse of the cell.
An organelle whose main job is to create ATP for its host cell. Up until this point, all cells were prokaryotes, simple bags of stuff without any division of labor going on inside. But suddenly, in this leap of evolution, that changed. Some biologists think evolution basically would have stalled if this hadn't happened. Because every single animal and plant on Earth is made of eukaryotic cells, complex cells whose ancestors were born in that moment when one cell swallowed another and took it hostage and squeezed all the energy out of it. Meanwhile, the general blueprint of single-celled organisms has hardly changed in 3 billion years. Prokaryotes didn't gradually morph into eukaryotes through a bunch of gradual evolutionary steps. This one evolutionary leap, basically a freak accident, changed the entire course of life's history. And this kind of freak accident happened twice. Around 1.25 billion years ago, a eukaryotic cell cannibalized another cell. This time, it was a photosynthesizing bacterium that got gulped up. Over time, that evolved into a chloroplast, the organelle that does photosynthesis. And today, every single plant has cells like this, full of chloroplasts and mitochondria. Forget gradual change. Without sudden, huge leaps in evolution, plants and animals just don't exist.
What's so special about eukaryotic cells? Eukaryotic cells have motor proteins, kinesin and dynein. Inside every cell with a nucleus, motor proteins walk on microtubules to transport stuff from the nucleus to the cell wall and vice versa. How would eukaryotic evolve from archaea? What would be an intermediary? Every kinesin head is unique to the load. It is impossible for eukaryotic cells to evolve from archaea cells. It would be the equivalent of not only a buffalo growing a full set of wings, but being able to use those same wings to go into orbit. I mean, Evel Knievel couldn't even make that leap. The best scientific statement that can be made about eukaryotic evolution is, you don't know. Unless you have blind faith in the evolution religion, a miracle from God, is a better explanation than evolution from archaea cells for critical thinking people. If astronomers can propose what happened before the Big Bang, why can't atheists biologists put their reputation on the line and propose exactly how eukaryotes evolved from archaea cells? And remember, the daughter cells must resemble the parent cells. Consciousness, the fourth miracle. Standard references describe the brain in humans as an approximately 1.3 kilograms mass of pinkish-gray tissue composed of about 10 billion nerve cells linked to each other and responsible for the control of all mental functions. Your brain is a physical instrument through which your spirit communicates with the physical world. According to one researcher, your body is an avatar by which your consciousness, which is outside your body, communicates via your brain. Further proof, Dr. John Lorber, professor of pediatrics at Sheffield University, examined a math student in 1986 with an IQ of 126 in a CAT scan to discover that the student had virtually no brain. The normal brain consists of two hemispheres that fill the cranial cavity some 45 millimeters deep. This student had a layer of cerebral tissue less than 1 millimeter deep covering the top of his spinal column. He had almost no brain. But somehow a math genius.
So the actual name for the rally is called terminal lucidity. That's what medical professionals call it. And it happens in about 1/3 of all of our patients. So that's a lot. That's 30% of all of our patients experience this medical phenomena. So what is it exactly? It is when someone who is terminally ill or showing that they're dying, we usually call it transitioning. It's when they're very, very sick. So they're mostly sleeping, not eating, not drinking, looking like they're going to die. Their family's preparing themselves. Everyone thinks this is it. And then suddenly they have this burst of energy. And it can be small, where they're just up and talking and kind of having a good day, or it can be really big. They suddenly are up walking. They're wanting cheeseburgers, they're wanting their favorite food, their personality comes back, they're joking. And this can really send people into a tizzy because they think their loved one is suddenly better. And the hook with the rally is that they suddenly die. So this rally is not drawn out. They're not better for weeks. This is like dying, 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 better, dying. So it's shocking.
Consciousness and terminal lucidity. What hospice nurse Julie doesn't talk about is that the rally could occur for patients with totally diseased brains that may have greatly shrunk due to Alzheimer's. What do so-called critical thinkers think caused terminal lucidity? Is it caused by evolution, or is it a gift from God? Does it prove that we are not just bags of meat? Could it be that terminal lucidity happens because the dying/damaged brain no longer blocks signals from the consciousness?
Truly is it. Visioning is when people who are dying will start seeing their dead relatives, dead loved ones, dead neighbors, friends, pets, anyone who has brought them comfort in their life. They will actually start visually seeing them, sometimes even having conversations with them. So to be clear, medical professionals do not know why this happens. However, I have to talk about it because it happens so much. It is so normal. It's literally a normal part of death and dying. Many people in the comments, I'm sure, will say, oh, it's because they're having hallucinations. It's because they're on so many medications. It's because they have lack of oxygen to the brain, so they start seeing things. Let me tell you this. We don't know why it happens. I don't know why it happens. But what I can tell you is it is not those things people always think it is. How do we know? Because as medical professionals, we do see what hallucinations look like. We do see what psychosis looks like or delirium looks like. We do see what low oxygen to the brain looks like. Visioning looks nothing like that. First of all, visioning usually happens about a month before someone dies. So the person who is dying is usually alert, oriented, eating, walking, talking, living kind of a normal life, and then will start seeing their dead relatives, their mom, their dad, and be just as confused as everybody else, just as surprised as everybody else. They're not confused in seeing them. They're not like barely breathing and seeing them. They're usually very alert and oriented and seeing their dad, who has been dead for 2 years. And they will actually ask us as medical professionals, like, hey, what's going on? Here is what visioning is not. Visioning is not low oxygen to the brain. How do we know that? Because the person telling us that they're experiencing these visions is not having low oxygen to the brain. We can check their oxygen, they're fully alert and oriented, and they're not showing signs of hypoxia. It is also not the medications or the morphine or over sedation. And how do we know that? Because again, most people who are having these visions are not on a lot of medication or have been on several medications for a long period of time and have never had visioning before. Not all medications equal hallucinations. So visioning is specific to end of life. A lot of people think that near-death experiences are the same as visioning, and they are not. And the difference is near-death experiences is usually people die, have some kind of experience, come back and talk about their near-death experience. Visioning is specifically for people who are still alive and near the end of life, and is actually a sign of death and dying. It is something that healthcare professionals who work in this world look for so we can actually gauge how far along this person is on their death journey. So
near-death experiences. There have been approximately 25,000 recorded and studied cases of near-death experiences. The commonality of NDE experiences is uncanny. When people have NDE, they describe going through a short tunnel to another reality that is more real than when they were conscious and walking around on Earth. The tunnel is short and you are still on Earth, or you can travel to other places in the universe if you desire. During a NDE, you can see people and things on Earth, but they can't see you. Time doesn't move. One person reported entire NDE episodes between each CPR compression. About 25% of people who die and are resuscitated state that they had a NDE. About 1 to 5% of people who had an NDE would admit they went to hell. People who have had NDE have described things they couldn't possibly have known, such as a bone saw breaking in the next door operating room while she was being operated on, a shoe on the roof of the hospital. Seeing patient saw herself with red hair, even though she was born blind. She also thought everyone saw in 360 degrees, like she did during her NDE, instead of just in front. Meeting a loved one who had died at same time or just before their NDE. NDEs can't be the result of chemicals or dying brain. We must label any person as a science denier who dismisses all of this evidence that proves that there is something more than just the material world. Probably the best video simulating life after death would be Star Trek, The Next Generation episode entitled, The Next Phase. Lieutenant Geordi LaForge and Ensign Rowe are out of phase with the starship as a result of a transporter error, and they can see people and things, walk through walls, but people can't see them. Ensign Rowe even thinks she is dead. This is pure sci-fi, but it makes a good illustration. Just so we are on the same page, transporters are impossible. You can't create life from non-life. You must believe in God. If you worship Satan or practice witchcraft, you're just rooting for the wrong side. If you believe in or are frightened by ghosts and other paranormal events, spending the night in an abandoned asylum should be a snap for atheists. If you ever had or believe in out-of-body experiences. If you ever had or believe in premonitions. If you believe you have a soul. If you have ever prayed, who are you praying to? If you've seen or believe in miracles. Argument by authority. Undoubtedly someone with a bunch of letters after their name will state that only dim-witted people would believe in a god. However, the greatest mathematician ever, Leonard Euler, is also required reading for a master's in divinity degree. He gave us the symbol for pi, imaginary numbers, functional notation, functions to represent sine, cosine, and tangent, and Euler's equation for God, as well as many others. No STEM graduate can graduate college without ever studying the work of this man of God. Conclusion. I'm not emphatically claiming that each of these cases are miracles from God, but I unequivocally state that a miracle from God is just as valid as the supposedly current scientific explanation. By dismissing any supernatural explanations, you are promoting a religion of atheism on everybody. Wouldn't miracles from God be more plausible rather than stating the events were giant leap in evolution or freak accident of evolution that happened over and over? Based upon the evidence of the 4 miracles, have you been convicted that there is a God? A famous atheist, who claims he's a cultural Christian, whatever that means, proclaims that it is delusional to believe that a God created these miracles. Don't you think it is more delusional to believe there is no God? And finally, to a certain African American astrophysicist, you may be able to kick Pluto out of the planets, but you don't know how life started on this planet. Plus, the amount of DNA has no bearing on the intelligence of the organism or lungfish would be ruling Andromeda Galaxy. Funny how a 3,000-year-old book of fairy tales has so much accurate scientific and historic data if you know how to read it. Our final thoughts. Based upon all of the scientific gifts from God. For example, the spark of life, universe on a razor's edge, DNA, Hubble's deep field image, NDEs, etc. Would you expect a God of the universe to want his followers to live without speaking in a monastery while endlessly learning about him via studying holy books? Or would you expect a God of the universe to want his followers to learn about him by seeking, learning, and spreading the truths about his scientific gifts? And remember.
All right, so this has been God Talk. Brain candy for the thinking Christian, a bad day for the atheist, or a provocative question for the seeker.
And this is God Talk, your partner while you commute to work, or a cure for the insomnia. Either it keeps you awake all night and you forget about needing sleep, or you'll sleep like a baby. Thank you for listening.
Please like and share this video. God Talk is self-funded. We have no advertisements or sponsors, so please share.